Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to be able to take part in today's 75-minute debate. I will be making a motion at the end of my remarks, but the motion is topic today is the Government of Saskatchewan's commitment to innovative solutions to recruiting and retaining physicians and nurses in Saskatchewan, which has led to nearly 900 more physicians and 3,700 more nurses since 2007. But I think it's important that we take a step back before we get into the details of what our government has done, some very innovative, important things that we've done since 2007, and really give a lay of the land before the Saskatchewan Party formed government. Before members on this side formed government, the province, some would say, was in crisis on many different fronts. Just look at the population numbers. The population had dropped by 22,000 people from 1996 to 2007. Population was in decline. We were declining as far as growth in the economy as well as people in this province. We would sit in opposition and listen to members say that statistically it was impossible to grow the population of this province by more than the 1% that the opposition had forecast it was possible if we formed government, and it was quite disheartening to see the NDP government of the day to make comments like that. They had ministers saying that more people left. Well, it'll be more for the rest of us, and we'd always say no. When people left for Alberta or around the world, it wasn't more for the rest of us. We really lost something in Saskatchewan, and this really speaks to our healthcare professionals. They would leave. Yes, they were leaving in droves to mainly Alberta, but around the country and around the world to take up jobs. And there wasn't more for the rest of us when they left. It was a loss to this province, and it was very disheartening. Saskatchewan lost 450 nurses and 173 doctors from 2001 to 2006. At that time, Saskatchewan had the longest surgical wait times in Canada. Under the NDP government of those days, they closed 52 hospitals, mainly in rural Saskatchewan. They also closed the Plains Hospital here in Regina. You look at how they treated seniors in those days. They closed 1,200 long-term care beds. On the seniors' income plan benefit, there was not an increase in the benefit for 16 years under the NDP government. So just given that type of feeling that was in the province makes it very important how we when we came into government in 2007, how we looked at the situation. We also had the former NDP health minister saying that they didn't want to have targets about how many more nurses that would be hired in the province because they may not meet the target. Well, they weren't going to meet the target because they didn't put anything in place to meet those targets. They didn't want more nurses and doctors because they were planning for decline in the province. People were leaving, and they didn't feel they needed to have targets to increase the number of nurses and doctors in the province. When we formed government in 2007, some were saying that healthcare was in a crisis, but at what point were people's health and lives were going to be at risk because of the lack of particularly registered nurses and doctors? And it was getting very, very serious at that time, Mr. Speaker. So when we came into government in 2007, our government made a decision to give an increase in salary. I believe it was 35% over 3 years to registered nurses, and that was one very important thing, because under the NDP government, we were not paying nurses the salary that would keep them in the province. They could go to Alberta and other places for much more money, and they were leaving. So there's no doubt that that had to be addressed, and we did that, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, when we formed government, it was the member from Indian Head Milestone was the health minister, and he had to take on a very heavy load trying to deal with all these issues in health care. And he's done a fantastic job. He did a fantastic job, and he's followed by the member from Weyburn Big Money, who did an amazing job as well as health minister. And today our current health minister continues to do an amazing job to keep healthcare on track and keep for the safety and health of the citizens of Saskatchewan. So we want to talk about innovation in this motion. I think there's a number of things that we have done as a government which speaks to innovation. So obviously one of the problems was the shortage of physicians in Saskatchewan, and mainly rural Saskatchewan. So there was a kind of an archaic process of trying to get doctors accredited in the province. So our government changed things and brought in the Saskatchewan International Physician Practice Assessment, or SIPA. And it's a made Saskatchewan solution which supports the recruitment of more physicians to our province by assessing foreign-trained family physicians from a broad range of countries. And I have to say at this point, as well as, you know, many questions, how do you recruit physicians? Well, through our experience, I just know from the town of Biggar, the best resource to recruit physicians is the physicians that's in the community. In Biggar, we had traditionally have had 3 physicians, and occasionally we would go down to 2, and there would be, well, quite frankly, it would be very serious for many people. People would be trying to go to other communities or just going into emergency waiting lists, quite frankly. So on over the last few years, when it was down to 2 doctors in Biggar, the clinic, which is owned by the 2 remaining doctors, they would recruit physicians, and they were very good at it. And so they had a key role in recruiting physicians, whether they're international physicians or from around the province or from around the country. The community stepped forward and financially made a commitment to recruit physicians, and over time we're back to a stable 3-physician community, which is really a benefit to the area and to the citizens in and around Biggar. So first, best recruiter is the physicians, being helped financially, and more than just financially, just on a personal level, to help these people integrate into the community with their children and their spouses. Looking for a job for the spouse is very important. You know, the health regions, and now it's one health region, they play a key role in recruiting as well. And under the Saskatchewan Party government, we have SaskDocs, which is the provincial recruiting agents to go find doctors around the country and around the world. So everyone working together, we have made tremendous strides in the recruitment of physicians. And SIPA is just another very important way of getting these doctors accredited and into our communities in the province. So now nearly 900 more physicians are practicing in the province compared to 2007. That's a 51% increase overall, 62% increase in specialists, 43% increase in general practitioners, 98% increase in pediatrics. In the same time, the provincial population has increased by 17.5%. Through the Saskatchewan International Physician Practice Assessment Program, or SIPA, over 200 doctors are currently practicing in the province. 154 of these are practicing in rural or remote communities. As of March 2017, approximately 52.9% of physicians practicing in Saskatchewan received their medical education from outside the country. For family physicians, this number is 65.5%, and for specialists, it's 38.3%. We have one of the best physician compensation rates in the country. As part of this compensation package, we provide special incentives to doctors in rural Saskatchewan. I'll just move on to the other very important areas when we talk about nurses. As I said, we gave a salary increase that was much needed, and our record now is that over 16,000 nurses of all designations call Saskatchewan home, 3,700 more than in 2007. That's a 27% increase in registered nurses since 2007, 48% increase in LPNs, and 126% in nurse practitioners. In 2016, Saskatchewan had 923 RNs per 100,000 people, well above the Canadian average of 796. We delivered on our promise to hire 900 more registered nurses, added 300 more registered nurses, RPNs, training seats, and doubled the number of nurse practitioner training seats from 20 to 40. So very important innovations to recruit and retain healthcare professionals. Now, another innovation that we brought in was CECs, or Collaborative Emergency Centres, to improve the access to health care in rural and remote communities. They are designed to provide care for 24/7 to help stabilize and improve access to primary health care and emergency services. And during the day, the public has access to a primary health care team, including physicians and nurse practitioners, which extend hours on evenings and weekends. Overnight, the care is handled by a registered nurse and paramedic team with a physician oversight by phone. Saskatchewan has opened 3 collaborative emergency centres in Maidstone in 2013, and Shaunavon 2013, Kenora 2014, and additional CECs are being implemented in Waka and Spearwood. As of March 2017, over 4,000 patients have been served, and 77% have been able to stay in the community rather than transfer to another hospital. So CECs have been a very innovative program that has come in and has been very successful. Back on the physician recruitment front, something else was very important is that we've added 40 seats to the College of Medicine from 60 to 100 and doubled the number of residency positions from 60 to 120. We expanded the distribution of postgraduate medical education to Prince Albert, Swift Current, Orange, North Battleford, and Moose Jaw. Further plans are in development for additional sites. 100% of medical residents in 2017 graduating classes from Swift Current and Moose Jaw decided to stay in practice in Saskatchewan. And I think that point we have to make again and again and again. These innovations have, when students go do the residency in smaller urban centres around the province, they tend to stay in those communities and service those communities that they have been trained in. So, Mr. Speaker, my time is running out, so my other colleagues would like to say a few words. So, Mr. Speaker, I would like to make a motion that this Assembly supports the Government of Saskatchewan's commitment to innovation solutions to recruiting and retaining physicians and nurses in Saskatchewan, which has led to nearly 900 more physicians and 3,700 more nurses since 2007. I so move.